Hey everybody, we are going to be looking at character creation today on D&D Beyond because we're going to do a one-shot and you need a character. And I can provide that character if you want, but if you want to create something special for yourself, this is the way we're going to do it. And this will make sharing and everything really easy. First of all, with D&D Beyond, you are going to need an account. It is a Twitch account, so you might already have one. As you know, Twitch is associated with Amazon, so the logical progression is Amazon, Twitch, and then D&D Beyond. So, one key thing before we get going here. Before you create your character, you need a special link from me to join a campaign. That way you're going to get access to a whole bunch more than you normally would. If you just go ahead and create your character, you're going to be limited to the base stuff unless you go out and buy stuff. I don't want anyone to have to do that because I can share all the materials in D&D Beyond that I have, which is currently up to everything. So, make your account, wait for the link, so that means you need to let me know if you're in or you're out. But then, once you have that link and you click on it, you can go to D&D Beyond and go to Characters, once you're logged in, of course, and you're going to go to Character Builder. Now, there are a couple things you can look at here if you want to randomize, you just want a quick build, if you want to do a standard. If you're on the free account, you're going to get up to 6 characters, so you could make one, throw it away, do whatever you want with it. But let's go through the standard, just because you're going to get the widest array of options here, and I think it's going to be helpful for you guys to just kind of do that. If you want to do a quick build, you could do that, but it starts at first level and you skip some things that I think will be missing. So as you go into standard, first and most important is your character's name. So let's call this Shreddock, because that sounds cool. There's a name generator, so you can randomize it if you're not good with it. Homebrew content, sure, on if you want. There's a site called Critical Role, a game. They add stuff, you could use that, it doesn't matter. Keep playtest content off, that will just make it cleaner. That content sometimes goes away. We are going to do milestone, use encumbrance, and hit points will be fixed. So that will take care of some stuff, and we'll show the unarmed strike. So far, really the only thing you've got to do is give it a name. Let's click next. Now, this is where it starts to get a little bit more challenging. You get to choose your race. Now, there are a lot of races you could choose from, and you might be thinking, oh my gosh, that is a ton. How am I ever going to decide? Well, if you're really having a hard time, let me just suggest elves, dwarves, halflings, humans, half-elves are pretty common and pretty easy to work with. They're also pretty good. Some of these kind of crazier ones, like playing a goblin or playing like a hobgoblin or a kobold, stay away from some of the crazy ones, just because it'll make our game easier and it'll help me as a dungeon master be able to provide you with the best information. So in this case, you see there are a couple of different halflings. Those just give you some different advantages or different kind of features. Pick the kind that you think sounds good at this point. For this one, why don't I go with a mountain dwarf? And you can see here some information about the mountain dwarf, kind of what they're like. If you don't like it, you can cancel. Give you some bonuses that the mountain dwarf gets, so that kind of things like, oh, this is what they're going to be like as a character. They're going to have certain abilities, or they're going to have native things like they can kind of see in the dark, which can be helpful if you're going into a cave or someplace dark, like a dungeon. So you can read through those things. If some of those things aren't making sense, don't worry too much. Mostly at this point, because we're only doing a one-shot, pick something that sounds fun. I'm going to choose a mountain dwarf there. Now we're going to go, and if you want to change stuff, you can, but you can see these advantages. What you're really looking for right here is this little exclamation point. If you see this exclamation point, it means there's something there for you to do. When you click it open, you'll see that I get a tool proficiency and I get some kind of artisan tools. Well, do I want to be a smith, a mason, or a brewer? I know a lot of you instantly what you would choose. I am going to choose mason though. And of course you want to read a little bit more about what each of these things do. Go ahead. So now that I've got that, I go to here. Now, I get to choose a class. Think of a class as like a job. What job are you going to do in the party? Are you going to be upfront tank? Are you going to be kind of a support character? Are you going to be the healer? Are you going to be the wizard providing the magic? It's up to you. And there are some tropes that you could go with, like a dwarf is probably like a cleric or a fighter. If you're an elf, maybe you're a ranger, kind of the Legolas style. So you can follow the trope if you want, but you don't have to. There's some things that are better than others for different classes, but for the most part, you can be whatever you want. So in this case, I think I'm going to go, we're going to do, I don't want to get too crazy here, but I'll show you a warlock. Okay, so I'm going to choose warlock. Gives me some information about the warlock. I can read through that. Some different stuff that happens at higher levels. So you can decide whether that's what you want to be. I'm going to add the class. Now, again, we see that with the warlock, I get those exclamation points, and I want to go through and fill those out. Now, proficiencies are things that you're going to be better at doing if you have advantage or proficiency in it. So if as a warlock, I probably want to know a little bit about magic, or arcana as it's called. So I choose arcana. Now here you'll see arcana's gone, so I can't choose it twice, but I could choose something like, I don't know, investigation seems pretty helpful. Now for a warlock, I have this thing called otherworldly patron. Depending on the class that you choose, and I'm not going to go through all of them, you'll have different options here. So here, I might choose like a celestial. That may be like a more holy god. That's kind of someone that's a celestial is good in helping me out. Or I want a fiend, someone a little bit more tricky. Or I think I'll go with Hexblade because I think Hexblades are pretty cool. Then you can see I can read about the other stuff that I get here at first level. If I even want to see what happens at higher levels, which will be important, you can choose that as well. So now we've chosen one class. The other thing we want to do is make sure we're changing this level, because we want to be, let's put everybody at, level 5. Now the challenge with this is you're going from 1 to 5 and you're skipping a whole bunch of the learning in the process. So there's going to be a whole bunch of things you can do now at level 5, and it'll be like, but again, it's pretty good as a tool to walk you through and say, hey, here's some things that you get to do. So for instance, I get this Eldritch Invocations, and I can choose these different spells. I can choose a Pact Boon, which is kind of this additional thing, like Pact of the Blade, and then I'm going to choose ability, or this would be like later on to improve your strength, your intelligence, your wisdom, those things. Or you can take what's called a feat. Feats are pretty cool because they give you special abilities and sometimes give you increases in your stats as well. So for instance, one that I recently learned about was Tough. And I'm not suggesting you take this one, but it is an option for you. So Tough, your hit point maximum increases by equal to twice your level when you gain this feat. So it gives you more hit points. Cool. So that might be important for some people. Now, there's lots of feats. You can read through them, choose the one that you think is going to fit best with your character. Now, if we were playing a longer campaign, probably what I would say is don't just think about your character as a set of stats. Think of your character as a story. Your character has a history. They've been through stuff. They've seen things. They've dealt with stuff. They've lived life. So what about their life? What things have they experienced that would give them some special abilities or traits, and then tie together that in a story? So there's a feat, or you could just say, I want to improve my ability scores, and I want to choose, I want to make dexterity stronger. And I'll talk about the scores in just a second, because we will be setting those here in a minute. So you're going to want to go through and choose those. I'm just going to skip ahead now and come back to that later. So with ability scores, you'll look at this and see I get some racial bonuses because I'm a mountain dwarf. I get some extra strength, some constitution, and it looks like that's about it. Now, there's a couple ways you can generate your skills, but what we're going to do is something called the point buy. I like this better than rolling dice because rolling dice seems so random, because then you're like, well, you only got a 7 over here and a 9 and a 10. It just feels like it can be really great. Oh, I got 3 18s, or really terrible. Point buy kind of levels things out. So what you'll see here is you can now start putting in points to where you want them to be. Now, the tricky thing is it does take a little bit to figure out where should you be really maxing out. Like if you're a wizard, intelligence. If you're like a monk, dexterity. A thief, probably dexterity as well. If you're a fighter, constitution and strength, especially as like a barbarian. If you're a bard or someone who wants to be kind of tricky or really charismatic, go with a charisma. And so what's going to happen here is, let's say, because I am a warlock, I think I use my wisdom. I'm going to bump that up to, let's do 14. And I want to get some constitution. So you can start to see as I spend those points, depending on how much it says, it's going to take away from the points here. I'll put some at some kind of base level, get me up to be, maybe not so bad. Now, a lot of people say, oh, -1. It's interesting. I think you can have lower stats. It makes a more interesting character. Plus, you might really want to be good at something else. So, like, maybe I really want to get this constitution to 15, and my wisdom to 15, and then we'll bring up charisma. So, and I could play with this. Maybe I want to be weak and not so bright. It's up to you. You can see down here that you're going to get like some bonuses. So even though I took a 9 in strength, I ended up with an 11. So I might even say like, dude, take an 8 there because I'm still going to be at 10, which is, you think of a 10 as kind of the mid-normal. If you are a normal person, this is what your strength would be. Higher, you start to get stronger and stronger. Lower, you get less and less. So if you had an intelligence of 8, you're functioning, you might be on the edge of reading. Lower than that, you probably don't know how to read yet. So now that I've got 1 point left, let's see, where can I put that in here? Maybe I'll put an intelligence. Yeah, there we go. So now I've got this guy. He's not very strong, but he gets a good strength modifier. My constitution is excellent because it's at 17 total because of my racial bonus. So you'll start to see that this is going to be my character. Now, if I go here and go next, you can see I've got my character. I've got a background. This is less important. It does give you some things, though. You might just, again, think about that story. Who is this person? Are they an outlander? Are they noble? Are they a spy? Are they an entertainer? In this case, I am going to be maybe an urban bounty hunter. Sounds like a good thing for a dwarf. Can read about it, but then I get some more proficiencies. So I'm going to do some insight. I want to do some persuasion. And I want to do, I got proficiencies here. I could be like good at dice. I get benefits with playing cards. Let's do that one. And then also, no, I don't want the bagpipes. I want thieves' tools. Cool, that's part of my background. So I would get some proficiencies there. So that means even though I'm not a thief, I could use thief tools. And then there's some other background stuff. And most of this other stuff, this is for fun. You can add kind of like these traits that helps you play your character. So kind of interesting. Now, if you want, you can also go here to this little icon, click on it, and you get some different pictures. It's going to bring up some profile pictures they've got loaded. As a mountain dwarf, I think he looks pretty cool. I'm going to apply that. And then I go next. Now, in terms of items, this is where it's going to get tricky. I'm going to ask you to not add any items. I will help you with that because at 5th level, there's things that you'll probably have that you might not have at level 1. So there is some kind of like starting equipment. You're going to choose equipment. You can choose kind of, if you want to go through this part at least, starting equipment, choose whether you're like, I'm going to take light crossbow. I'm going to take arcane focus, which kind of like helps direct my spells. I'm going to use a crystal. I'm going to use an engineer's pack. And I get to choose some simple stuff here. I've already got a crossbow, so I think I'm going to use maybe a light hammer. It seems very dwarfy. Add starting equipment. So now I have some starting equipment at least, and you can go through, you can start to do things like wield. So I'm going to wield my light hammer. I'm going to get my daggers at the ready. And then what you'll see when we're in the character sheet, how that works out. But I will be adding a few things to help you on your journey. But that has to come after you've created a character and I can see what kind of character you are. We go next, and now you can see view character sheet. So you can actually go in and start to see everything that you've just created. So you can see here's your stats. And these are things that you would play with during the game, right? Like if I ask you to make an Arcana check, I get to roll the d20 and add a +3. When I ask you to make an attack, if I roll with my attack with my hammer, I get to add +3, and then I do 1d4 damage, which I'll probably be revisiting because 1d4 damage just might be tough. However, you can go in here, you can start to see different your traits that you picked or got with the race that you picked, different things your class can do, your background. Some of these things aren't filled in. Physical characteristic, personal characteristics, that's up to you. If you want to do that, cool. Place for notes. I get some limited items here. And then I get one thing if you're going to do a magic. I do have to go and start looking through the magic list. So this is something you'd want to do. Now I get 3 cantrips and 6 known spells. That means I'm going to learn, let's say, 3 of these things that say cantrip. A cantrip is kind of like a low-level spell. It's like, it doesn't cost you anything. It's pretty weak, but useful, especially at lower levels. And then, because you can use it over and over and over as many times as you want. And then you can also use other things as well in terms of spells, but those take spell levels that tend to be a little bit more powerful. So, I would just pick a couple of these, and I won't do that right now, but you can do that as you work through it. Give you a chance to read. If you just click on these, Unseen Servant, you can see what it is and what it does. I'd recommend probably for a one-shot. You do want some healing things if anyone's going to be a healer, but you want a few support, but you're going to want a lot of offensive as well. But support things are really helpful too. Just depends on what you're doing. So that should walk you through D&D Beyond. Remember, wait for the special link. Go in and make your character, and most importantly, if you have questions, DM me. I'm the DM, but direct message me or send me an email or text message or whatever, and I will help you work through this the best I can. So, hope this helps, and I can't wait to play with all you guys. See you later.